Hello, this is Scott Carpenter, and welcome to another installment of the Sasquatch Awareness Project with trucks blaring out back. Today I wanted to talk about a couple things, gifts and shelters as a sign of you may have Sasquatch in the area, or more specifically on the gift side, you may have them on your property. And then shelter, of course, would be you may have them in your hunting area on your property, or wherever you hike or hunt, fish, whatever you do. And so I wanted to start with gifts first. And gifts are, or whatever, we would call them gifts because obviously they give us something. Does that what they mean by them? I mean, logic says yes, but it can't always be 100%. That's exactly what they mean. So, from the best that I can tell, they do gifting a couple different ways. It's sometimes just to show you that they're there. Sometimes it is a barter thing. In other words, someone's giving them food, the food's taken, and a flower or feather or rock show up. Sometimes they take stuff. In other words, it's not something like you didn't leave food out for them. They'll take whatever they take. They'll take dog food, they'll take chicken or whatever, and they'll leave something. And so it could have multiple meanings, but the bottom line is when you start seeing or getting gifts, it's a signal, a sign that obviously they're around and on your property and making contact and letting you know they're there. It's kind of it's one of those things, like I said, if you're a hunter or you're hiking, most of the time you don't have a gifting situation, but there are instances where they do leave things, whether you want to call it a gift or not, and I'll get to that. But around my house, when they started visiting, they started doing stuff like leaving feathers. And the classic, or not a classic, but well, for me it's the classic, I guess it's how it started with me, was, so they had already started visiting. I'd found a footprint or two, but was kind of wondering what was going on, still in my mind thinking I've lost my noodle. And so I go out, start the truck for work, and I look down right beside the driver's side door in the driveway. So I go outside, and right beside the door is so I go out. Sorry, I've got a new GoPro, and I'm still learning how to work it. Obviously, it's cutting my segments down into chunks, and maybe 5-minute chunks, so I'm going to have to figure out that setting. But anyway, so what I was talking about was, so the feathers were being left by my truck. So the first morning I go out, and there's a blue jay feather by the driver's side door. Coincidence, blue jay feather falls off a blue jay. The next morning, same thing. So at this point I'm kind of suspicious. So I move my truck a little bit. I have to, I don't do it on purpose. It's more like I parked it a little back because I had to get some stuff out of the garage. Well, the third morning I go out again, there's a blue jay feather beside the truck again. It's right beside the driver's side door. And so now it's like, okay, something's going on. So I totally moved the truck to the other side of the driveway and pull it right up against the house. The next morning, another blue jay feather. And the fifth and final time in this sequence, it's happened multiple times, I moved the truck almost back to the road and went out, and again there was a single blue jay feather beside the truck door. And I actually have There's the 5 blue jay feathers. Picture of them that were left beside the truck. So, and I've heard of people. In other words, they'll also do this. They'll leave them on the back porch or under the stoop. Like if you have a back porch or back door, they will place them on like the welcome mat, the front door. I've had them put them like right in the center of my steps going up in front of the house. There's the third step up, the middle step up, are real big about middle stuff, and right in the center of the step. In other words, if you measure it, it's right in the center. I've got a picture, I just didn't dig it out, but they've done that before. So when they leave these gifts strategically, it's obvious. It's an obvious sign. It's like a duh. We're here. It's a calling card. It's a way to get your attention and let you know that they're visiting. Now, as far as gifting in an area, now one of the things that's happened to me is like I've gone out a trail hiking. I've come back, and there'll be like one time there was actually just a rock with a feather on top, turkey feather laid on top of it. You could say, well, that's odd, but it could happen. Well, the rock wasn't in the trail because it was a bit basketball-sized rock, and I would have remembered it. And I had back trail camera going at the time, so I was able to go back and look, and it wasn't there. So it was obvious they were placing that quote gift or that little trinket, whatever it was, in the trail to let me know we're here. Hey, we saw you go by. Another time it happened to me was, and I've got the picture right here, and it helped me kind of understand them better and understand the intelligence of what was going on. But it's a long story, but I'll try to go real quickly with it. I was resting. I'd climbed the mountain. It was hot. I was resting. It was June or July. A lot of bugs out. Got me something to drink. Ate me a granola bar, and I was really getting eat up by the mosquitoes and the gnats, so I was going to refresh my bug spray. Well, I went to spray it, and a burst of wind caught it and literally blew it right in my face. Of course, I coughed and everything like that. So I get up and I go on out the trail, and there's some of these little stumps on the side of the trail, but I go out the trail and I probably walk for 45 minutes to an hour out, and I turn around and come back. Now it's hot, it's summertime. I saw no one going out, and there were no forks in this trail, and I saw no one coming back. Well, on my way back, and I've got this videoed, as I'm walking back by very close to the area where I sprayed myself in the face with the bug spray, I see this precariously set of rocks stacked on the edge of this stump, and under the top rock is some sort of plant, and that's what you're seeing here. And so I took it, obviously they had done it, and I didn't know what this plant was at first. And in fact, this was so precariously balanced that when I went to take the little top rock off the top and get the little the leaves, what's been snipped off here, the thing fell over. I had to catch it. So it was very delicately done, obviously, for me to find. And I put a granola bar back and I think some flowers under it. I sniffed it, and it had a kind of a mini smell to it. And so I got back home, did some research, and it was wild mint. And a little bit more research. Guess what wild mint is used for? It's bug repellent. You rub it on your skin and it repels the bugs. So obviously, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to tell you. They saw me struggling, or one of them saw me struggling with the spray, knew what the spray was, knew what it was for, obviously, and then gave me a natural alternative where I would find it. So, there was a gift that had a purpose, and you know, and it showed that they had intelligence and they knew what was going on. And those that followed my research know that's not the first time, so, or not. They've heard that you've heard this account before, but so there's another way a gift is given on the trail to let you know that they're around, or they're in the area. And the other thing I wanted to talk about real quick though, before I get into shelters, like one time I was left. This was what I was gifted. I was giving them food and candy bars, and there was this is a I believe this is a hawk skull, and it was completely cleaned out and very delicate and I still have it, very pristine. And so I went into the feeding station, and the laying on like a rock that was covered with moss, covered rock. Can't talk. Candy bars were gone, and this was there. And so I debated on whether to take it, but at the time I was really trying to establish some sort of relationship. I didn't know what they truly were, and I went ahead and took it. And but that was one of the more interesting, purposeful. I mean, the rocks and the mint was purposeful. This, was in exchange for food. The other was more of a, hey bud, instead of choking to death, here's some mint. Here's what you do with it. So, of course, this was a feather left at the feeding station. Another example of them leaving you something, for the food. I also wanted to talk about shelters real quick. Shelters are harder to pin down because they can be made by anyone, kids, hikers, scout troops. When I first started doing the research, I found this, and you can kind of see here. There's some sort of organization to it. It's not it's not like a shelter that's going to keep anything out, but they had done some intricate work here to stack the 3 sticks and then stack sticks, and it was kind of it was a tree, a big limb had fallen and made this little area, the limb up here, but they had added all this. And I thought I was back kind of in the boony area, and back in this little area that this is actually where I started the feeding station. But I noticed one thing, there something large had been laying in it. Number one, and number two, it had a really bad and powerful urine smell. And but it's been my experience that when I've found possible shelters, they're at least the ones around here are extremely stealthy about it. They don't add a whole lot. There was another little shelter I found against the lake, and it was a similar situation where it was a natural shelter. A tree had fallen and that left the leaves. Where the limbs and stuff formed like a little tent, a little cubby. And something had crawled in it, and then you could see, and it was obvious something had been laying on its right side. And from here, from the place where this quote shelter was, there was about 30 yards to a horse trail. But it was well camouflaged. If they were laying there, you could see them. I laid in it actually and watched people go by, even with a dog. The dog never alerted on me or never smelt me. I had the wind in my favor. And it was kind of a perfect situation because you had the lake shore at your back. Just a couple feet away was the water, and so there was no way anything could kind of approach you without you seeing it. And then you could sit there and watch the horses all day long. And I had found some sheep sorrel and some honeysuckle, and the nearest of either one of these was good 300 or 400 yards away, and it was like piled up like something had been snacking. And so that seems to be the way they use these shelters. And I'm telling you this because if you find these sorts of shelters, either when you're hiking, hunting, or whatever, that could be another indication that you've got some Sasquatch in the area. There's also these, they do these more intricate than out west and sometimes Kentucky and some and around here in some of the more remote areas. There's been the teepee structures found. There's been the lean-to structures found. Those sort of things, and again blowdowns, and then something's crawled up in the blowdown and made a shelter, made a place to hide. So it's one of those things that it's, again, like I've talked about, it's the culmination of multiple things. In other words, footprints, stick structures, and now here we've gone with the shelters and the gifts. These things together build up, your confidence in the conclusion that, hey, we've got some activity here. They're on my property. They're where I hunt. They're over here where we go hiking. They're over here where we go camping. And that's how you kind of got to look at all this together. And so I hope that was educational and enlightening for you, and we'll continue on. What is this? January 2nd, 2023. So start the new year, go back to work tomorrow and get to it. So everybody, y'all be careful out there. And until next time, we'll see you.